Welcome to TruthStream, and today we're kind of walking the Green Mile with Mike Gill and Kevin
The
Hoy.
Green Mile, thanks a lot.
Well, hopefully our audience is gonna join the fight to make sure that doesn't happen. And folks, I got to say, in all seriousness, this is some of the most important information you're going to hear this year, and it's absolutely vital we get this out. Mike's done a number of interviews recently. The one he did with Michael Jaco most recently is absolutely phenomenal, and everyone and their brother and their dog needs to hear it if we're going to really come out on top. So I really want to emphasize that. Share the shit out of this. So having said all of that, welcome Mike, and again, welcome Kevin.
Thank you.
We'd spoken briefly just in the pre-interview, something that I figured you'd have a lot more information than you've shared about the Epstein boomerang, specifically with regard to Ghislaine Maxwell and her holding up in, of all places, New Hampshire. So maybe we'll start there, and then we'll see where this takes us.
Okay, good. I'd like to start there. Just one thing before, you had mentioned to everybody about sharing. Understand, and I need everybody out there to understand that the battle lines is for us to go viral. We can't count on President Trump. The reason why he's indicted now, because he is one element as a platform to have this information and evidence to go viral. Plan B has got to be us, the American people. It's us sharing. I mean, this isn't just our responsibility, it's their responsibility. I mean, for us to turn around and stand up and unite, the truth will do this. And what I'm going to tell you is absolute. I started this as a businessman. I started this not as a conspiracy theorist, but each and every step I wanted to be proven wrong. I built the largest brokerage firm in this country, looking at every page, turning every page, logically, strategically moving. This is how I moved to uncover all this. But right now, like I said, we've got to go viral. And I'm telling you, people are listening. They're connecting the dots, and we're giving them the players, the methodology, and that's the importance. But okay, let's go to Maxwell. We talk about the rabbit hole with Epstein and Maxwell, but I think most people miss the essence of the real rabbit hole here. I mean, is there connection to the Mossad, particularly with Maxwell's father? Yes. You can go back to even Silicon Valley Bank and realize their ties to the state of New Hampshire, to the cartel in New Hampshire, to the registering agent in Concord that's a broom closet. That's what made Silicon Valley Bank dive. It was the movement of cartel money. You know what? 500 startups. You know where they were? In Israel. You know, 80% of startups go out of business in the first year. Boom, there's your laundering network. Now, the reason why I bring this up with Maxwell, here's the rabbit hole. What was Epstein and Maxwell? Now, we know they were pedophiles. We know they were blackmailers. But what made them wealthy? Blackmail was an insurance policy on who they were money laundering for. The rich, the famous, the powerful. Money laundering. Now think about this. What killed Epstein was the secret of who that money belonged to, which happens to be all the essence of the Pandora Papers, the largest money laundering network that I found over 10 years ago and called it the Deep State Money Laundering Network in the state of New Hampshire. Small, well-protected, completely corrupt and guarded by Bill Shaheen, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, married to Senator Shaheen, in control of Hassan.
Real quick, Mike, do you think that Epstein's truly dead?
Yes.
Okay.
You know why I think he's dead?
Why is that?
Because, listen, everything that I do and the methodology of catching these, and listen, I've been doing this for 16 years. I'm not telling you I knew all this out of the gate. It was every day, every second of every day for 16 years with the mind who built the largest volume brokerage firm and the largest thoroughbred racing stable in the world. It was that intensity. Now, what Epstein knew, he had to be murdered. Dead men don't talk. They're not taking chances. What, are they going to make a deal with him, put him in some palm tree somewhere and hope he gets found? Listen, dead men tell no tales. No.
But Mike,
now think about,
what about a dead man switch? Because everybody that's got blackmail dirt on the most powerful people in the world, they have a dead man switch. That makes me think that maybe he might have. I mean, the corpse they paraded out and called Epstein looked quite a bit different from Epstein. So I don't know.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is everything I'm going to tell you, I tell you from a position of pure logic. You go over all those years and years of videos, right? Show me one time where I was wrong. And if I was years ahead then, what makes you think I'm not ahead now? All I can tell you is the secret that Epstein knew, no one was going to trade out. Murdering him is an absolute. These people don't take risks, not with their money, because their money is a roadmap to all of them. The corrupt politicians, the drug cartels, the human traffickers, every dirty piece of business in this country, the commonality is their money and their laundry. So absolute is, they're not going to do this guy a favor. Hey, let's make a deal. The deal of killing him is absolute. Listen, at one time they did give him a deal. So, U.S. Attorney Acosta in Florida gave him a pat on the ass, and they made him the Labor Secretary of the United States. See, that's trading.
Yeah.
Now, we speak of Maxwell. Once I tell you this, maybe you'll reconsider your thoughts if they didn't kill Epstein. Now, what were they? Money launderers. Money launderers for the same people in Pandora Papers. The same network they offered me $50 million by name on releases, which included Bill Shaheen, the IRS, the Department of Revenue, the banking department, the banking commissioner. What do they all have in common? They're auditors. Guess who doesn't audit? Them. How do you think you acquired $932 billion in the tiny state of New Hampshire? And next to that, $300 billion in South Dakota, which is even smaller than New Hampshire. Why they were picked? Well protected and guarded. Now, those $932 billion is also the secret and the roadmap to who owns that money. Politicians, drug cartels, traffickers. Now, so what was Maxwell and Epstein? Money launderers. Once they killed Epstein, Maxwell. Now let's look at Maxwell. You ready?
Yeah,
please.
Maxwell had connections, money, influence. She could have gone to anywhere in this world and been well protected. Now, why did she pick the state of New Hampshire? Not only pick New Hampshire, but felt comfortable enough to buy a home. And she was the most wanted person in the world by everybody, particularly the ones that wanted to kill her. But she picked New Hampshire. So that's going to be the question. So here's the answer to that question. She was a money launderer. Where was the Pandora Papers? In New Hampshire. Where did I say it was 10 years before? And every year thereafter, the state of New Hampshire. She moved to New Hampshire. Again, what was she and Epstein? Blackmailers. You know what they were blackmailing them with? More than photos. They were blackmailing them with their money and how they made it and where they kept it. They knew the laundry. They knew the network. Maxwell felt the most safe where she had the most blackmail.
Bingo.
She sat right on top of the safe, right on top of it, and said, listen, boys, if you come from me, I'm telling everybody. So, plan B, the most corrupt FBI in this country that I videotaped over a dozen times, blocking the door, the Boston FBI, who, if most people don't know this, but the Boston FBI is the FBI for all of New England, but Connecticut. And that guy was Durham, who I was giving evidence to for 2 years, investigating the Boston FBI for mob ties. So the Boston FBI snatches her up without anybody saying a word. Now, guess who her lawyer is? The very architect of the Pandora Papers, Bill Shaheen. Now, you think of the odds of Bill Shaheen being her lawyer and the Boston FBI who's protected this network of laundering and protection and protecting drug cartels. They snatched her up so she couldn't say a word. They turn around. I already know what they would have said. Listen, we just killed your boyfriend. You can shut your mouth. And listen, it's a lot harder to negotiate from a jail cell. And that's, I have a feeling Epstein turned around and gave them the answer they didn't want to hear. Maxwell capitulated. She's the only one that I know that got prosecuted and as a, what we call it, a madam. And one of her clients got mentioned or went to jail. So, but that is the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is to the Pandora Papers. And to everybody who's listening, you ready? In a strategy that built the two of the largest volume business of mortgages in the United States and racing in the world, it is strategy. Wars and battles are won in the planning, not the actual battle. Now think about this. So many people are exposing corruption. It's becoming more and more obvious. But the question then becomes is where do you take it? The FBI, the DOJ, I videotaped those journeys. I went as far as President Trump. I had the National Security Advisor, General Flynn, seek me out with Sidney Powell, asking for the same evidence that I've been offering, the money laundering network. Because you know what they all know? That is the roadmap. To all the corrupt politicians and drug cartels, it's the question none of them can answer. Joe Biden, where'd you get the billion? Hillary Clinton, where'd you get the billion? And if you don't think their money's in there, remember, Bill Shaheen, campaign manager for Clinton. So Shaheen and Hassan, VP candidates for Biden. Their most trusted ally sitting on the most trusted and protected vault in the world, which now was taken over by Sununu, who's now running for president with the power of the secrets of that money. The real reason they killed Epstein and they snatched up Maxwell and what they both leveraged a country with. Look at Biden. This guy's not leverageable. 40 years of corruption. He's the perfect candidate for the deep state because they can put him in. It's like the mafia. The mafia don't make you unless you kill somebody. Why? Because they can put you in jail. It's the same thing here. So the path, that $932 billion, for the people who don't know in the Pandora Papers, is in Congress, in the Ways and Means Committee. These bastards know their names. They know who the cartel.
Quick question. Do you still think that's the real Biden, or do you think that's someone playing Biden?
It's Biden. You can't get two idiots like that. That's special made.
That's the best argument for not being an imposter I've ever heard, Mike. Thank you.
Can I jump in too? Because
yes,
I want to talk about the obvious disagreement and the only disagreement between any of us and Mike Gill, and it's the real unbelievable part, even for me or anybody, is that something's actually going to happen this time, right? And the disagreement is that people like us, Joe and Scott and myself at least, we believe in the white hats and the Trump and Putin and Xi's being good guys, and we're watching. We got our own thing going on.
Yeah, Derek Johnson, SGN on,
right. So again, in Vermont State, you know, I'm a little mini Mike Gill. Mike has been doing it a lot longer at a lot better level than I have been. But we've been doing the same thing. You can see all the illegal shell companies. You can see from the sheriff to the clerks to the appeals courts to the education to the judicial. They own everything, right? And even though we believe that the good guys are out there coming, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I wasn't risking it. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not. And even if let's say Trump was bad. Oh my God, I'm questioning the king. Remember,
I'm not saying Trump is bad, by the way.
Right, right.
Well, and even if he is, even if Trump is bad, my theory is that he capitulated first then, and it doesn't matter. And the fact that we're here, we're the white hats, we're the new government, we're the new education, we're the new, influencers.
And I want to say something, and that doesn't mean we have an ego about it, because we did an interview and someone's like, oh, you guys, you have an ego. We're on the front lines, just doing what we can,
just like Mike.
And I do want to say, I don't think there's any way in hell that that's still Joe Biden. I personally don't. But anyway, we heard that matters. Hold on one second. I just want to say, we heard Mike on Jaco, and that was more of Mike talking, and we are a little bit more interactive, so we're going to throw our thoughts in a little bit as well, and we just want to let the audience know that. So.
Listen, I'm good with questions.
Okay, fair enough.
So this is what I would tell you, and it speaks to our differences.
Okay.
And listen, I see people Q and QAnon and all this as patriots, foot soldiers, and necessary. But this is what I would tell you is the white hats, I've taken this all the way up the ladder from the grassroots. You know how many white hats I found? Zero, none. Do you think that these people don't know what's going on? Do you think that, listen, I dealt with the National Security Advisor and military intelligence. I dealt with every avenue of this. You know who the white hats are? You're the white hats. I'm the white hats. The people are the white hats. We've got to organize. Listen, you know, one of the tricks is to make you think that the cavalry's coming over the hill. Absolutely. Do you find yourself always waiting for justice? Do you find yourself living off of one promise to another? Right. Remember all those sealed indictments? They're still sealed now, aren't they? I mean, how long do we get to wait for sealed indictments to open, for some military operation to arrest these people? Really? Who are those people? Because I'd like to meet one of them.
Where they're going.
You have to act as if you have to act as if no one is coming to save you, because there's no real evidence of anyone coming to save you. And that's what I love about your message, Mike. And I just want to reinforce that as much as possible. The time is now. You know, our founding fathers made it very clear that it is not just an option; it's our responsibility to throw off tyranny when it comes like this. So I don't know how to more emphatically emphasize that to our audience and anyone listening.
You know what?
This is my point.
Correct.
We
can't wait a day.
We can't wait a day. You're absolutely right.
Again, that was the point of what I'm saying, is that, you know, regardless of whether Trump is good or bad, or the good guys are there or not, I'm not waiting. Mike Gill's not waiting. Joe and Scott aren't waiting. And it doesn't really matter, because we are the catalyst. We're the most powerful force on the planet, the people, right? And we're honest and sincere. And that's what I'm saying. Just because we believe that the good guys are coming doesn't mean sit on the couch anymore. You guys need to get off your ass. There's more than enough evidence. You need to take it to your officials. Just like you watch, I mean, I've done it with my sheriff and my senator and governor. Mike's done it with the Treasury. He's been to the head of the FBI. All that stuff is documented. It's, I guess, where, you know, Mike deals in definite known based on his experience and the evidence that he's seen. And I try to too, right? And then we tell people, well, this is kind of speculation and we're making connections or whatever we're doing. But none of us really know. All we can control is ourselves. And it's about getting involved. And that's where I'm here with Mike agreeing 100%. If everybody was doing what Mike Gill or Kevin Hoy is doing, we'd be done. It'd be over already. If everybody was doing what Joe and Scott were doing, we'd be done. That's what I'm saying. And I see that already. And I think Mike's right with the unity. It's about the children. This all goes to human trafficking. Right. Senator Patrick Leahy from Vermont, again, found kindred spirits with, George Soros and Jeff Epstein. It's all connected. You look at, everything that I've talked about in Vermont State is the same exact. Mike says it's all of New Hampshire. Well, guess what? It's all of Vermont. I tested all 180 of our legislators. I gave them the same evidence like Mike did, and I'm still waiting for a callback. Same with the media, right? But yeah, I'm watching all these guys disappear, and I don't think they're running and getting whacked, but it doesn't matter as long as they're disappearing and this truth comes out and more people get involved and activated. So that's the important part of the message, isn't it? Like
yeah, I just want to say one thing, and then we're going to just give Mike the floor. But
let Mike go, please.
Interject. I just think, but I do love Derek Johnson's message and all of the things that he talks about and showing the flights and etc. And we've had SGN on the show, and I love his optimism, etc. And I don't know exactly what the truth is, but I do encourage people to see those as well and listen to all sides. But anyway, without further ado, Mike, please go ahead, and we really appreciate you being here, and we'll give you the floor now. Go.
Right. I mean, I'm not. This isn't hypotheses. I met with the most powerful individuals in this country, the head of the law enforcement at the highest levels. I'm a witness to those things. Listen. The National Security Advisor Flynn come to see me, sought me out with Powell while they were in the Oval Office working with Trump to stay in office. They were using my evidence for that purpose, and we don't have to guess. Flynn was communicating me through emails and text messages outside of the phone. They gave me a time frame. They gave me evidence so that evidence would be used, and I would be used as a witness. What happened was January 6th. And if people want to look at those communications, you'll see how Flynn wasn't taking calls and his whole team had to scatter. So, and I never thought that was a good idea or a plan. And you hear me say that in communications. And in fact, on Christmas Day, 2020, the FBI met me in the parking lot, 2 agents. And what I'm telling you again was in communications with Flynn. They threatened me from talking to him and giving him strategy and giving him evidence. And that is documented. And then look what happened. Again, strategy wins battles before they're fought. We lost that battle before it started. We opened the door for them to be able to use that. So again, the path is their money. The path is their laundry. We know there's 932 billion. Let's get the names. You know how you do that? The American people demand Congress to say, we want those names. That was the run on the bank with Silicon Valley. That was a tip-off from Congress.
It sure was.
Well, let's give instructions too, Mike. I mean, for the American people, everybody watching this show, what do you do? And it's the answer, correct me if I'm wrong, is a FOIA request with your Secretary of State. And it's as simple as saying, hey, we want the names on the Pandora Papers. They know.
Well, this is it. Ready? Congress, the names of the Pandora Papers. Now, ready? With the Secretary of State, and listen, I'm working with the people of Arizona on exactly this, what we're talking about right now. You go to the Secretary of State's office. Now, in New Hampshire, you'll see me in a video confronting Secretary of State Gardner, which took me 30 minutes to get his name because he freaked out. He went catatonic on me. I was running for governor. They destroyed my voter registration. Now, that same Secretary of State that will corrupt an election, they approve the trusts and LLCs, those dummy corporations, those corporations that have hidden assets. So what we do is, one, we're asking Congress to come up with those names. Two, we take a 91A, it's a Freedom of Information Act. You bring a camera, you bring a few people with you, as many as possible. You go to the Secretary of State's office and you drop it on them and say, we want to know the names of each corporation and trust in the state. Then you take that information with the address and you go visit them. Let's find out if it's a broom closet worth told 10 billion. Let's find out what businesses are owned by, when we turn around and find out the real owner isn't a drug cartel. Then we turn around, go to the banking department and hit them up with a 91A and say, we're going to find out whose banks are connected to these dummy corporations in business. Again, you take the camera. So now we've got their hidden corporations. We've got their network of banks. And consider this. How many trillions of dollars are through the banking system in this country that is dark money, hidden money, that's not getting reported? Meaning, if you turn around and snatch up a drug cartel, how many banks go out of business or go belly up? And listen, if they go belly up, they go belly up. What I'm suggesting is you seize their assets before they steal them. You keep them in this country and they pay for reparations. So in other words, I'll consider it a plus. We'll just change hands. So there is an avenue and a path. Find their money and their laundry. And you're going to find out, the Secretary of State, he's part of the laundry. The banking department in New Hampshire, the commissioner is called Jerry Little. Little was a state senator. He wrote a bill. You know what that bill said? The banking commissioner, if he trusts you, doesn't have to audit. And guess what? He's Sununu's boy. Sununu took the keys to the laundering network by putting his buddy Jerry Little in as the banking commissioner. They took over the keys from Shaheen with the help of O'Keefe from Project Veritas, who used his operatives to take my evidence and witnesses to leverage Shaheen in the cartel. That's how presidents are made. Blackmail and extortion. That was the move. That was O'Keefe's move too, with his 20,000 libertarians. And listen, I have nothing against libertarians. This isn't about politics. It's the business of evil. But those politicians, O'Keefe and Ben Swann, opened the door to their own libertarian parties running for offices within the state with the purpose of taking control of the state, a libertarian sanctuary. But what these libertarians ran into, the sanctuary was that of the cartel and Bill Shaheen. I was with Day and O'Keefe. Those guys were cowards I saw them shake. You know who brought me the cartel? O'Keefe and Day and these libertarians. I had 5, then 6 working for me inside my operation. So I know them.
Quick question. How does O'Keefe think how is this going to play out for him if he's doing what he's doing? Because a lot of people view him as, this great asset and this whistleblower. But what's the incentive in the long game for someone like that?
And you know what? There's always a long game. Now, here's the long game. The long game was, if he makes a deal with Sununu by giving over the evidence that Sununu could leverage Shaheen, the deal with then Sununu is for the libertarians to be open up into the state. He moves aside the protection power of Shaheen. Now that power belongs to Sununu, who opens that door. So if you Google in 2012, 3 articles in 2014, those 3 articles in 14 go, James O'Keefe investigates Bill Greiner, Ben Swann investigates Bill Greiner, and Ben Swann and O'Keefe investigate Greiner. Now, you know who writes all 3 articles? Erin Day, who happens to be running for president, who turns around to be my campaign manager, who is the operative O'Keefe. So O'Keefe's going to move Day later on as the governor of New Hampshire, as Sununu runs for president of the United States, using the same secrets of the Pandora Papers to leverage their enemies. And Shaheen has to back away the same way he backed away for Sununu. That's long-term planning. The only thing was, I was supposed to go away. When they offered me $50 million for the 4th time, and I said no.
Wow.
And listen, it's a lot easier saying no when you're a multi-millionaire. Although what they found out when the cartel leveraged me for 274 million and taking my money, I told them to stuff it. Well, I wasn't supposed to say that. Aaron Day and O'Keefe assumed with Sununu and Shaheen and the cartel that I would cut a deal. Take the 50 million, they walk away, I keep all my money, and everybody's happy except for I said no. So when I said no, O'Keefe ran to Washington to Trump with Day. That's why I was called to Washington. That's why before that, I gave the evidence to United States Attorney Lullen. It was Trump who opened that door. You don't meet the most powerful law enforcement agent in all of New England. Hell, you see me go a dozen times to the FBI, they wouldn't open the door. That was Trump that opened that door. When I went to Washington, I dealt with the Trump campaign people. Listen, these political campaign people, if there's something more filthier than these people on each side, I've never met them. And I've met the cartel. They're just as filthy and should be all tried for treason. So I met Patrick Howley, bureau chief of Epoch Times, Stephen Gregory, Trump's most trusted ally and media source, Google. They wanted me to take the money. They wanted my evidence and the witnesses. Why? They already had it through O'Keefe. O'Keefe's plan would be blown if he turned around and exposed the evidence. Then he would have broke the deal. And if O'Keefe didn't do it, the world would find out that he brought me the cartel. Why do you think those articles were in 14? Bill Greiner was one of the heads of the cartel. He was the political money man. He worked for Bush, Jeb Bush, and then turned around and Greiner's the president of the cartel bank, primary bank. He's the chairman of the board. So O'Keefe would have outed himself. So they needed me to give them the evidence. They needed me to do it on camera. And then when I turned around, so you would have had to think, I've already told them, they were telling me to take the money. Because if I said no again this time, when I went back home to the state of New Hampshire, I was to be murdered. They were going to hit me with the 50 million and then the 274 million, which I've already said no to. So if I said no to it again, I would be dead. So when you ask me about Epstein being dead, listen, I'd have been dead. And it's not too hard to believe, seeing I had 3 attempts on my life in 13 days. 2 of those were caught on security video. One you can listen to, and I'm not even counting as an attempt, Kill Gill, where Project Veritas records a hitman saying how much to make him go away, the cartel and Shaheen. And how's this? Project Veritas, do you ever hear that video? How about the video where they record the Treasury Inspector General of the United States saying they have moles and plants in my office, and they ran a cover-up of the money laundering of the IRS? You seen that video? The only thing that produced out of New Hampshire was a woman voting twice. Stop the presses. That's what that was.
I just want to say something. I'll turn. So you're standing for children, you're not taking bribes, and you, from my understanding, you've lost everything and you're homeless because this is how important it is to you, correct?
I slept in my car. I've eaten, I had to survive on $1,870, living in the worst kind of hotels, eating hot dogs. And some days of the month, not enough to have money to stay and would sleep in my car. From being ready, the world champion of the king of sports. I beat the crown prince of Saudi Arabia for the world championship. I'm sleeping in a car eating Parkview hot dogs. Not good hot dogs, the cheapest hot dog.
So how did they take everything from you, if you can answer that?
They seized the courts. They own the courts. They turn around and say, hey, I put the cartel's faces up on signs across New England. I mean, I had 8 message centers. You drive across the highway, it looked like a drive-in movie cinema. I had all their faces on there, including the judges, including Shaheen.
Wow.
So, I mean, I put there, why? Hey, listen, I went to the DEA. You've seen me deliver evidence. That evidence got an 80,000-pound capacity tractor trailer full of fentanyl. That was the largest fentanyl seizure in history. And the only reason why that went down is because I had them on camera. Wow. You see me go to the FBI. I put their faces on the signs too and called them cowards. Listen, when you put the cartel's faces on signs, you assume you're dead. So when I had 3 murder attempts and then 2 of them you get to see, I had them posted. YouTube took them down. The FBI has those evidence. You've seen a description of evidence that came out of U.S. Attorney Lelin that you see in writing that he gives to Attorney General Sessions and the Washington FBI. You see that they indicate they were videotapes of murder attempts. I'm not kidding. Listen, one time they should have sent somebody bigger. Another time I anticipated, and one was by the grace of God. Someone walked in when they had a gun to about my chin. And you know who witnessed it all? Aaron Day and Project Veritas. When I'm telling you these bastards are cowards, I would have to pick them up from their basements. Right. They wouldn't leave without me sitting in the car with them. And that's the God's honest truth. And none of them is saying I'm lying to you. None of them. Why do you think James O'Keefe resigned or was forced out? Whatever story you want to hear.
Right.
I can tell you exactly. Do you really think he stole a sandwich from an 8-month pregnant woman and that's the reason they don't like him? The face of that Project Veritas brought in tens of millions of dollars. The reason why, if this gets outed, and I'm doing my best, he would lose Project Veritas and they would close it down. So what by doing this is simple strategy. Again, I'm a man of logic. By separating a Project Veritas goes, hey, I told you he was a bad guy, and they keep their company. That's why. Now think about this, right? What happened after the election? What did the FBI raided? Mar-a-Lago? They raided James O'Keefe, and they raided Giuliani. Right. Now think about this. What would O'Keefe have that would cause a raid? Listen, it wasn't a diary, for Christ's sakes. You know what it was? It was the laundering evidence. It was the evidence that I had. It was the evidence that went to Trump and all. That's what the FBI was looking at. You know why? The FBI was at stake here, because if that came up, they are the protection network. The intelligence are. The DEA are partners with the cartels. The FBI protects against investigations. I mean, that's the evidence they were looking for. And you want to know, look what happened after they didn't get it. Sununu turns around and says, I think I have a drug cartel. No shit. You were open casinos with them. Dick Aganos, you can't see a photo without seeing Sununu holding his hand, whether it be a treatment center that they're distributing fentanyl out of it, cartel members or their counselors. You turn around in the Boston FBI, you know who they raid for money laundering? Aganos's casino. And you know why? Because all of a sudden, the reason why Trump's indicted right now is because he could blow the whistle and they can't count on him. This indictment is a means of threatening him. You want to take a walk? Move on. And Trump's turning around and goes, hey, boys, hey, you see the last couple spots he went? America, the fentanyl and the cartels are killing our generation of people. He then goes on, the intelligence agencies of this country, of the deep state. He even says the Inspector General. Remember who I had on tape from Project Veritas? Aaron Day hit that play button. The Inspector General of the Treasury committing treason, covering up the IRS money laundering. So at that point, the FBI says, I told you, look, we're doing our job. Sununu saying, I'm doing my job. And O'Keefe gets back. They turn around and say, oh, Project Veritas says, we told you he wasn't a good guy. See, watch the chessboard. It's all, and listen, in all these years, there's nobody who knows me better than them. We could talk for the next 2 years and you're not going to know me better than them. And there's nobody out there that knows them better than me. I know the players close up, eyeball to eyeball. And that's why I can turn around and tell you what's going on and connect the dots and show you the evidence. Why do you think Lullen gives my evidence to the Attorney General of the United States? Why does the National Security Guard, ex-National Security Advisor, finds me? And believe me, I was in a place hard to be found. Why do you think he communicates with me on text and emails? You don't think he knows he's doing that? They're creating a new timeline. So
Mike,
here's
I
what
got
I'm
two
saying.
questions for you.
Go.
One is everyone's speculating whatever the FBI wasn't able to recover in the raid on Mar-a-Lago it certainly has an awful lot to do, one would think, with the recent indictment. There's something Trump is holding, and it may very well be the evidence you're speaking of, the evidence you provided. But two, you mentioned Jeb Bush.
All right, hold on 1 minute. Let me hit one for you and hit Bush.
Okay.
Number one means they didn't find it. That's why he's indicted.
Right.
They hit him with leverage because they didn't get it.
But is that it? Is that the evidence?
The FBI didn't find this evidence. I guarantee it. That's why they're playing both sides. That's why Silicon Valley Bank had to move money. That's why the cartels moving assets like Granite State Recovery, like Auto Fair, and that's why Trump's threatening them. If they had the evidence and Trump couldn't threaten them, he wouldn't. He's doing it because he's going, hey, listen, boys, you ain't got it. And if you come for me, I'm coming for you. That's the translation. So they didn't get it. Listen.
This is it. This is why I told the audience this is probably the most important line of thinking we can be paying attention to right now. So
isn't Trump doing what you're asking him to do, though, Mike? Like, he's disclosing it. Is it just because he's not saying names? And doesn't it have to be that way? Like, don't you, if they just disclosed it and took out, and wouldn't the lower tier run? Wouldn't the lower tier do the crash or the scorched earth burn like they're doing it in Ukraine? Like, the way that I see it going down, and again, this is the only difference, and it doesn't matter. The message here is for us to get activated. But even if they're not doing that, then hopefully the American people can, and I believe we win that one too, right? But
this is what I'm saying. You ready? And I'm looking at the chessboard. Listen, I know they didn't find the evidence, because if they did, we wouldn't be talking. I'd be dead.
Right, but we're releasing the evidence, aren't we? Again, we're the white hats.
Here's the deal. Why do you think I'm going out there pounding and getting all this evidence out there now? I knew exactly the play. And it was from that play that I knew I had to get this out there. So in other words, I'm trying to get this to the American people. But that's what Trump should be doing. Trump's playing politics. He's playing, the art of the deal bullshit. This is what I'm saying to President Trump. Ready? He already has a platform. We're trying to build a platform and create this and go viral. President Trump could turn around and say, the hell with you bastards. I'm telling the American people, don't threaten it. Forget about these threats of blackmail and all. Name names. You tell them about the Pandora Papers. You demand names. Now we've got 80 million Americans. And you know what? When other Americans don't turn around and want to know if their politicians are corrupt, who exactly is for drug cartels and human traffickers and organ harvesting? If you're on that team, you ain't on my team. So the bottom line here is, if there's a move for unity, it's that. I'm telling you, it's a move that would have made him president. It's a move that could make him president again. But this is not something that you use politically. You don't wait 2 years. You don't say, when I'm president, cut that shit out. The war is right now. We don't have 2 years. You don't think these people are moving fast? What do you think digital currency is? Control. What do you think 87,000 armed IRS agent is in control? That's the game. We're this, ready? They know in time that you will figure this out. Listen, when you're enslaved, it's not a secret. The jig is up. People are becoming more aware because your freedoms are being restricted. Your freedoms, COVID was a pretty good test. And now with destroying our economy and opening our borders. And we're in a world of turbulence with politicians that you can't trust. So the thing here is we have, by him blowing this up right now, could unite this country. Name names. Let's go after them. The American people be behind it. But if we don't have his platform and whatever they're leveraging him with, and trust me, I've been doing this too long. If they don't have leverage, they try to leverage you. You know what my leverage was? They couldn't find anything in my closet. I never stole a penny from anybody. But they do have my 5 children, and they have threatened to murder them and mail their heads back to me one at a time, and that is documented. So when I went to jail for contempt, I was sitting with that evidence that judge refused to take. When the FBI threatened me and my children, you see the communications with me and the Treasury Inspector General's office saying my children are being threatened to be murdered. And they did nothing. That's the kind of evil we're dealing with. They ask themselves, what do you love? And that's what they go after. So whatever they're going after Trump with, I'm not certain what it is. And I don't give a shit. Because the bottom line here is he's got to do this for the country. He's got to do this for everybody. I don't care what he did. We're all forgivable. You stand up for the American people here and now. You take whatever they got coming, you turn around and tell us all. He's got a made platform right now. The world is listening. The world's paying attention to this indictment. He turns around and says, you know why they're trying to indict me? They're trying to leverage me for my silence. They're threatening me with my freedom. That's what they're doing. And who's doing it? The courts. You ask what happened to my money? They own the courts. The network of this corruption, the roots are through our courts. That's the protection they sell. You don't, when have you heard American drug cartels? Forget Mexican drug cartels. The largest drug cartels in this country are American cartels. Fentanyl is synthetic, man-made. The Mexican cartels pouring across this border with human traffickers, taking over our cities for street distribution. That's why crime's going up from Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore. I mean, you don't hear Crips and Bloods because they murdered the bastards. That's why. When you want to talk strategy, plan, there's the strategy. At the same time, where your box pharmacies all cut sweetheart deals with the government from selling opioids over the counter. Now it's fentanyl. The American cartels own hospitals, treatment centers, pharmacies, in-your-face distribution, Medicaid fraud. So, and that dark money is dangerous money because that's the money they bribe with. The average FBI agent makes $71,000 a year. They can't be bribed. Cops can't be bribed. You know all those signs that I had? Murder, extortion. You know how many cops I had knock on my door and go, hey, Mike, what's about that? Ready? None. 0 in years.
It's the same with the media. But, Mike, aren't we stuck then? Because I've done this in Vermont. I've tested every one of them. They all failed.
We're not stuck.
We started.
The American people are paying attention. They're listening now.
That's through us. But I'm saying if they go to their Secretary of State, if they answer the FOIA, we're to the point where they don't answer FOIAs because if they do, we'll use it against them.
They're forced by law to.
Yeah, but they don't. I was supposed to be.
No. Yes, they will. They will on this.
Mike, they're refusing discovery in my case right now. I have a warrant, right? They cut my brake lines a year ago. It's been a full year now in April because I told the truth like you. I found the stuff.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Well, isn't it? I mean, isn't it the same as far as like, what do you do though?
No. It's outside the courtroom. It's outside the courtroom. It's not a judge's order.
You're talking about the court of public opinion.
No, the Freedom of Information Act is your God-given right. They have to disclose as employees of the state that information. Listen, how do you think I got people?
They don't answer, Mike. I've got.
They will. They will.
I just want to jump in. I know I can tell when Scott has a question. Go
ahead. No. Well, this was just part 2 of my earlier question, Mike. If you're ready for it, you know, we started talking about the Bush family, and you mentioned Jeb Bush. You know, a while ago, Trump came out and called DeSantis sanctimonious. And, that's sort of started the opposition, but clearly the Bush family is behind DeSantis. He's made a lot of popular decisions, but it just absolutely reeks of controlled opposition. What do you have to say about that?
Well, how about this? Let's not miss our boy Sununu, okay? Did you know that that Chris Sununu's father was the chief of staff for George Bush Sr.?
I didn't know that. Wow.
Well, how's that one?
That's
Sununu's all Bush.
Yeah.
Chief of staff was John Sununu, George Bush Sr. And what were they? Oil money. You ready? Google this. Front page, Breitbart, okay? Chris Sununu finances his family ski resort with using money from 3 terrorist groups tied to 9/11. Listen, this is a liberal media, Breitbart, front page. And I went to eyeball with that princess, Sununu. And you hear me say that. And I said, hey, who financed your mountain? And he called me prejudiced. What? Against Arabs. Oh, Arab terrorists, you asshole. And so think about this. Bush money again. That's Bush. Sununu's more Bush than DeSantis. They've got their prongs in it. And what does that come back to with the Bushes?
Well, what are they doing with DeSantis? Because DeSantis is clearly, number 2 pick, as far as the Republican Party is concerned. You and I both know the parties are relatively meaningless right now, but what are they trying to pull?
Sununu.
I heard they got DeSantis because they want to pull votes from Trump.
Well, of course,
right?
But they're not going to win with Biden, for crying out loud. They know it's a Republican. They just need a Republican they can control.
Well, how about this? They're not going to win with Biden.
No.
First of all, it's blackmail and extortion. First, Sununu's sitting on all the money and the secrets of the Pandora Papers, and he's running for president, and Aaron Day's running for president. All right. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Day's going to win, but you have to understand something. What makes him run? Makes him run because it gives him the credentials to be governor of New Hampshire. So don't rule that out. But the bottom line here is when you say Biden won't win, well, think about this. Do you remember those midterms? They weren't that long ago. Did you not think that they would have been a Republican landslide, considering that we have the worst inflation in almost history?
Well, what about election fraud, though? I mean, there's so much fraud.
Yeah, that's his point.
This is another connection. I don't know if you guys know about Mike Gill. He was born in Salem, New Hampshire. Salem, New Hampshire, we've talked about. That's also where LHS Management, that's the subsidiary of Dominion. They do the Vermont elections, the New Hampshire elections, the Maine elections, 8 other states. Who else is from Salem, New Hampshire?
Right? From Salem. But the bottom line here, election fraud? You're damn right there's election fraud. Now think about this. You know the first part of election fraud is? And the most potent and dangerous, ready? Both candidates are corrupt as hell. Right. Whichever you pick, you lose.
Yeah. And they've picked the winner before they pick the winner before they even go into the race, right?
And the cheat
they barely care. How about this? They barely care who wins. Republican, Democrats, it's a sham. It's business. You think the cartel and Dick Aganos cares who's the governor is? Listen, Bill Shaheen was his best buddy. Sununu's now the governor in control of his money. You can't take a picture without those 2 assholes in it. All right? So in other words, they don't care. It isn't politics, it's business, it's management. They jockey for position, but they serve the same master. Now think about it. Of all these years, right, what cartel members, what cartel heads you see go to jail? What political politician turns around and goes, these guys are corrupt as hell. These guys are stealing this. This is where they're doing their money in the payoffs. Ask yourself, ready? From the swamp. Who went to jail? Can someone tell me who went to jail from the swamp?
Well, wasn't it Meyer Amschel Rothschild that said, and I might have that wrong, but didn't he say he cares not for the politics of a nation? I'm murdering this quote, but yeah, if he controls the monetary policy, he controls it all. It's the same philosophy, different decade, right?
And it's the courts. The roots of this is through our courts, through our states. Why do you think we could turn around and have the indictment in New York with Trump? They own the courts. It's the law firms that infiltrated your attorney general's office within the state. Those assistant attorney generals became your network of corrupt judges. Those other assistant AGs became department heads, banking department, education, Department of Revenue. And then these judges went up to the Supreme Court judges of the state. Once you have all that control, these lawyers and law firms went to the worst of us: drug cartels, human traffickers, healthcare, insurers, big banks. And they go, would you like never to be prosecuted, never to have a judgment against you? Do whatever you want to these people and you will not go to jail. Now, what's that worth to you? And that's the business in the industry of corruption, the largest industry in this country. For instance, $932 billion in New Hampshire. Do you know what the defense budget is in the United States, which is 2 and 3 times the rest of the world? $700 billion. It doesn't even match the money is sitting in New Hampshire from the corrupt.
Mike, I gotta ask you this question. So, some people don't really understand how big the business, if we call it that, is of human trafficking and organ harvesting and the depth of it. Can you go into a little bit of detail on what that really means and what that is? Because I believe that's really what got you to say no to all this money, because that's anyway, please.
Well, I can tell you what said no. What said no was I ran a victims group called State of Corruption. Again, I was a wealthy guy. So I hired staff. So I went out there. I even did TV commercials. I put signs up and I said, if you're a victim of corruption, call me. I went from selling mortgages to every hour of every day of the week, months to years, sitting with victims, which also became my intelligence network. And I simply said to them, and listen, I didn't ask them if they were Republican or Democrat. I didn't care what race they were or what religion they followed. They were some people who needed help. And I found parents who lost children to drugs. The children of the elderly had their homes stolen and was euthanized from nursing homes. I found every scam in this state and the victims that caused it and their commonalities. So when they offered me the money, I remembered every tear of every victim, and I couldn't betray that trust. It became clearer as time went on the sides of the human trafficking. Now, human trafficking, let's have everybody understand this. You ready? The cartels are the human traffickers. There's no separation. None. They're one in the same. You think there's 2 organizations? Are you kidding me? Listen, here's Project Veritas again. Boy, I almost swore again. Now, Aaron Day sat with me with a front from a trucking company. This trucking company was from Manchester, New Hampshire, with daily routes from Manchester to Laredo, Texas. You know what they were bringing to Laredo? Military assault weapons. Do you know which state makes the most military assault weapons? The state of New Hampshire. Number 1 in laundering, number 1 in opioids, and number 1 for assault weapons. Let me see: guns, money laundering, and opioids, drugs. Wow, that's a trifecta in horse racing. So now this
got it all.
Jesus. Right. So now this truck goes to Laredo, Texas. You know what they bring back? Fentanyl, heroin, human trafficking, in particularly children. Children. We was Project Veritas with that video. But that's what they were bringing back. So the cartels are your human traffickers. What did Dick Agnos have? Hotels. You know what was in these hotels? Children having sex with adults and women having sex, the prostitution ring. They busted five of the hotels. Nobody went to jail, just like nobody went to jail with 80,000 pound capacity tractor trailer with fentanyl. Nobody went to jail. In fact, In 2008, when real estate collapsed around the country, nobody went to jail then either. That's the secret of protection. So these are one and the same.
So your advice, Mike, is just to tell people, because I mean, it's the same here. We've connected in Vermont State, our law enforcement, our sheriffs, we've got Bernie Sanders, we've got our state auditor, just like you, right? I've discovered the same things. And again, what do you do with it though? So that's my question to you is like, what are you expecting and asking the American public to do other than just share this?
No, we find their money. That's the commonality. So what's the commonality between the drug cartels and human traffickers and corrupt politicians, corrupt federal agencies? Their money. They're not doing it for free. It's money that they can't explain. Listen, you know how I caught a bunch of cops? You're telling me it was from Lawrence, Mass, right? I did one police station. I had an undercover. You know what he simply said to me? Mike, you want to catch them? I go, yeah. He goes, they're all living in Andover, Mass. They had homes of $1 million on the average apiece, making $60,000 a year. Hello. There it is. So in other words, it's their money. That's why the Pandora Papers are important. That's why the hidden assets that have run through your Secretary of State's office so important. Finding their money. That's why the movement in the banks and the fear in the banking system. Think about this. The Silicon Valley Bank wasn't isolated. Then where are all the other bank closures after if it was the Treasury? Many of the spreads in the Treasury bonds. Don't forget, that was the business I was in that made me #1 in the country. I knew it was bull.
What do you do with it, though, is the question. Again, we've got it's the EIN numbers here. We've got the matching
You
EIN.
tell the people. You turn around and tell the people, here you go. You ready? Demand as a country the names of the Pandora Papers. That opens the door to everybody. And then we'll open the doors to South Dakota and their $300 billion. That state is controlled by biker gangs moving drugs and fentanyl. Listen, I know about that too. So the thing here, what do you think I'm having the people in Arizona do? You know what they're doing? They're going to the Secretary of State's office with a 91A. And you know what they do with that afterwards? They're going as a group and they're going to videotape the delivery of that evidence to the DEA and the FBI. And you know what we say to them? Listen, if you don't get them, we're coming for you. And if you want to know that works, how do you think I filled an 80,000-pound tractor trailer full of fentanyl? Because I had those knuckleheads on camera. Now, it also almost bought me a ticket to an early grave, but it worked. I know where they're weak. There is a path. That is the path. And Trump has that key right to the door. All he's got to do is turn it. And that's what I would ask him.
Mike, I got to ask you. So with this information about South Dakota, I used to live in South Dakota. Kristi Noem is a real favorite among conservatives. Do you think she knows about this? Do you think she's
of course you cannot have $300 billion in your state and not have the governor know.
So what's her role in all of this, Mike?
Oh, the governor's role is simple. They appoint an AG. So it's their operatives in place. Banking department there. They are the key master. You have to own the governor. Have to. Because you set your people in place. What's the first thing that Sununu did? Change over the AG's office. What did he do? The Supreme Court justice in the state. Why is it important with the Supreme Court justice? They appoint the cases, in particular the important cases, to their hit judges. It's the management team. Listen, this is what I've always found. You ready? The most corrupt is always from the top. They move in place by being the corrupt. It's the most trusted people that advance. Because otherwise, you're sitting on a house of cards.
So are you saying that as great as Kristi Noem comes across, it makes me sick actually asking this question, because that she's actually compromised?
100%.
Yeah.
Not a second. I mean, listen, You've got 300 billion sitting in your state in hidden assets, right? That is cartels, that is corruption. You're not asking the question. And here's this with Sununu, right? You ever hear someone say, hey, Sununu, what's up with this 932 billion? Where's the media? They know the questions not to ask. Look at Arizona, right? What position are they questioning the most was the governor. That's the key master. Where did their Secretary of State come from? An assistant AG. Where'd the person who runs the banking department? The assistant AG. It is the New Hampshire methodology. It is how you take over a state. Where do they keep losing? In courts. What do they own? The courts.
So even if Carrie Lake gets in, is she as well compromised?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If Carrie Lake actually, gets through this BS election cycle and actually gets in, is she also compromised?
No, I don't believe so. And let's just say I'm working with people to help. I don't think she is. How about this?
That's nice to hear. At least there's light at the end of the tunnel here. That's not the train.
Otherwise, she'd be in there. That's the problem. Like if you're a player on the board, if you're already on, that's what I found.
Well, you know what? Why do you think so much is coming out of Arizona? Because she is honest. Why do you think they can't have her in as governor? Because she's a danger to their operation. Why all of a sudden are you hearing drug cartels owning real estate and properties and businesses? Because they are honest. That's the potential of that. I see Arizona as a potential domino. Which, think about this. Why am I pushing Trump? Why am I trying to go viral? Why am I helping Arizona? Because those are the three means of exposure and going viral.
So how is Carrie Lake? She does public appearances. I mean, we have obviously some of us have our own interpretation of what's going on there, whether she's protected or, if someone's playing her, etc. How is she safe? How is she doing what she's doing if she could be taken out at any moment in some way?
That's right. I'm saying that I believe this is a brave woman. And I think that she's starting to understand. Now, maybe they didn't earlier on. But every day that goes by, it becomes clearer. And listen, as I'm talking to you now, I just got a call from Arizona. So I'm kind of giving them the methodology and the method of how to do this. But I'd say this is a brave, patriotic woman. And this is what happens when you are. And I think that she is in danger. Now, they're going through the courts, and you're not going to win in court. They own the court, or that wouldn't be a judge. Now here's a theory, right? People turn around and say, well, all the judges are corrupt. All the lawyers are corrupt. Well, here's how it's done. Now, there is hit judges and there's lawyers that work in the network. Now, the other judges, what do they have in common? They need a license to practice law. Who controls the licensing? The corrupt. So if you don't want to play ball, you're not a judge anymore. And that's how it works. The licensing in each state is critical because the licensings for treatment centers that are only owned by the cartels are issued to only the cartels. I was in banking. What did they leverage me with? My banking license. You take my banking license, you take my business. See, licensing, state control. Again, who offers the licensing? The banking department. Who launders the money for the corrupt? Oh, the banking department. Remember, this is a business in the largest industry of this country. It is run like a business. They knew the questions you were going to ask before you asked them. I know, because if I evolved, I look for that path. And each and every time they were there. It wasn't until I evolved, I got into their heads. That's what I was trying to tell you is, I know them the best, they know me the best, because we have to maneuver where they're not. Here's the advantages and disadvantages. They are long-term planners and schemers. They have their exits well thought of with an advanced plan. Someone like me moves instinctively. I can move faster. They're like turning a battleship. I can move quick and try to get ahead of them. And that ahead of them is exposing them by finding their money, getting it to the Department of Justice, getting it to Trump, getting it to Flynn. I moved in position to have weaponized their enemies. The problem is Flynn sat on it. He's using it for leverage. Now, here's something that just happened within the last 48 hours. You ready? On Twitter, I'm exposing screenshots of Flynn saying about the settlement agreement. And then all of a sudden, Joe Flynn, General Flynn's brother, with 460 followers on Twitter. And listen, I posted this so you can read it yourself. You know what he said? So what? So what? Right. I said, I'll tell you what, so what? We've got drug cartels killing our children by the thousands. He's got the information of their Pandora Papers. And again, I swear, and I can't get over just how stupid these people are, really. Now, what he says was, whatever. Like he's a 13-year-old girl. Whatever? I mean, these guys can't be that stupid. And believe me, I dealt with military intelligence. You know what when I close my eyes at night saying, holy Jesus, no wonder why we're in this kind of shit.
Well, it's hilarious that you.
Hold on 1 second. So we have part of why I'm intrigued by this is, we have a friend who just lost her daughter in November from a fentanyl overdose, a beautiful 17-year-old child who we knew personally. And the other question did I lose it? If I come back to it, but it's just, how can you give us some insight? I'm glad I remember. Are all these judges, what does it look like? How are they blackmailed and compromised? I mean, I guess if you want to go anywhere, but how does it work?
This would work, okay? The judges are ruled by a board called the Judicial Conduct Committee, the JCC. With lawyers, it's the PCC, Personal Conduct Committee. Every board member is a member of this corrupt organization, hit judges. In fact, you ready? All the names of my settlement lawyers was the whole panel of the JCC. They all wanted my release. Now, how it's done is they go to a judge. You don't have to take our cases. You won't be in the club. But if you say a word, you'll never practice law again. We're going to snatch your license. The guy could turn around and say, well, I didn't do anything. Tough shit. We'll make something up. Remember, we're the bad guys. We lie, cheat, and steal. And that's exactly what happens. So they control you by your licensing. So you're going to have a judge or a lawyer turn around and say, I'm going to jeopardize my career and maybe my life for the people. Want me to tell you something? That's a short line, boy. But listen, I was in that line, and I had hundreds of millions of dollars in that line, and I could have been a club member. Listen, you know what they would have given me? Stay the hell away from this son of a bitch. You get a free pass. Keep all your money, and no one's ever going to mess with you. Or jeopardize all your millions, threaten the lives of my children, and there's a good chance if we catch you sleeping the wrong time and place, we'll put a bullet in your head. Now, how many people do you think was in that line? Just me.
Hardly any.
How about this? You hear anybody else turn down 50 mil?
I think there's billions of us, and maybe not to the same extent as you, Michael, but I think I think we're there, and I'm so proud of you, like, for what you're doing. And I can't think of, New Hampshire and Vermont, you're a Green Mountain boy. So I'm trying to do the same thing in Vermont. I came to the same conclusion. My conclusion was to give it to the people. That's what I've been doing. They want to kill me too, man. This is part of standing up. But you're not alone anymore. When you're on the front lines by yourself, like everybody focuses on just you, and it kind of sucks. But there's a whole bunch of us now, so they got to spread that ammo out. And when I see them come after me now, I'm kind of proud of it, and I'm taking the fire, which is cool because that means they can't shoot at anybody else. And
we are an army of victims. And what I did by meeting with all those people was organizing. I knew why I had so much evidence is because brave people stood up. And you know what they said? I trust you.
Yeah.
And when they trusted me, that's how I gathered this evidence from all those brave people, which is why what Project Veritas and Aaron Day did by giving up 106 witnesses. Listen, every night that I shut my eyes, I remember those people calling in the next morning, men, women, crying and fearful of their lives, fearful of their children's lives. So when you give this guy money, know that it kills me inside, knowing the truth. And now I have other people now who are out there asking me, journalists, for certain names of witnesses. Well, how about this? I'm not going to give them to anybody that's not going to be able to protect them. That's where I am right now. I hold that sacred.
Well, isn't it part of the witnesses too to tell their story? I mean, I talk to human trafficking victims 4 or 5 times a week now. I get all my intel from regular people too. I call it the Green Mountain Boy Patriot Network, right? When you stand up, everybody who has a horror story get 5,000 messages a day, Mike. And I bet 3,000 of them are horror stories where people have been abused by this system, right? But isn't that part of their responsibility as a victim to come out and kind of tell that story so that other people, because what I've noticed is when that happens, not only does it help the victim right off the top, but then you find there's 10 more victims that said, hey, that happened to me too. You realize that you're not alone. And the next thing you know, we have everybody going to Secretary of State's office looking for FOIA requests because we're upset about it. We should be upset about it. We should be livid about it. And I'm afraid of that now. I think mass vigilantism is about this far away because we're talking about mass genocide. The guy that runs the WHO is he's facing genocide charges now. We're learning about Frazzle Drip and the Wiener laptop, and Epstein didn't go away, whether he's dead or not. That list is still out there, and people are talking about it. This is, again, we're the saviors, we're the heroes. So I kind of see that coming, and that scares me too. How about you? I mean, are you worried about the backlash of these people? Again, they should be upset, rightfully, but I'm concerned with that. Maybe that's the catalyst that activates the military that me and Joe are still believing in. And Scott, we hope, right?
Well, I would tell you is, ready? Why hasn't the military acted?
I think it's complicated. I think it's fluid and complicated. And, I'm hoping when you say, you've been to Trump and he hasn't pulled the switch, I'm hoping that doesn't mean he's not doing anything. I think when he's disclosing stuff,
listen, it's as easy as him turning around and giving up all these names. That is so easy and would wake up a country. Do you think that it's something so easy that it's not being done? You think there's something secretly that's being done quietly?
I did. I thought my theory again is they're taking out that top tier and they're doing it quietly because if the bottom tier, we're talking about millions of people. If they knew,
right. You know how quiet they were. Listen, how quiet were they for January 6th?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Hey, Mike, if we could dial up the pressure, a little bit on Donald Trump to come forward with this evidence, it's your contention that would make all the difference in the world.
I think it could go down as history at the moment that we turn things around. I think this is why I think it's so important right now. We win or lose in these weeks and months that come. I truly believe this. So in other words, he could be that. How about this? You want me to tell you something? You want to know if I believe this? I'm going to tell you this from looking at the chessboard. I can tell you this deep state and corruption believes it. Why do you think they're indicting him? I mean, why do you think? Read the board. You know how you know how to move on a chessboard? By reading how they're moving. They're moving to an indict the former president of the United States. That's never been done before. And what are we really talking about? A stripper? Are you kidding me?
Who admitted that there was never an affair in writing and was paid by his attorney without Trump's involvement at all, allegedly. I'm just saying, if this is indeed a path to liberty, let's dial up the pressure in every.
Isn't that distraction? Again, he's the first indictment, first past president to be invited, but I think what you're watching is a precedent. Yeah. We're going to see a lot more past presidents be indicted along with the rest of these bastards because of people like Mike Gill, because of people like Kevin Hoyt and Joe and Scott, Louis Herms and Michael Jaco and a billion of us, right? I think that's what's going to happen is my conclusion. I think that's the precedent to take down a government. I think they're using their own system against them is what I think.
If we don't make a move here with Trump, I don't see us having an honest president again.
Right. Mike, I have a quick question, Mike. Are you a man of faith?
Am I a man of faith?
Yes.
My mother was the catechism teacher in Salem. She was handicapped from polio. My father was a fighter from Philadelphia who died 2 days ago. Oh, wow. So I'm a product of those two people. And my father was a bit twitchy. And I went from 14 years old to 19-year-old in a seminary to be a priest. Now, I can tell you this. I pray each day for wisdom and strength. But I do not go to bed thinking God's going to fix things. I think he empowers us to fix things ourselves. So in other words, I may not be of the same theory as some people, because I think we've got to keep our powder dry and go to war here. Not in the sense of firing, but in the sense of saving our country here. So I am a man of faith, but I keep it personal, and I don't want to alienate all and any faiths or people of no faiths. Our commonality is this. We love our children and we want them to have a future. So let it be that.
Thank you.
Love Mike Gill. Wow. Every time I listen to you, Mike, it's like there's so much intel and there's so much corruption, and I think we all kind of knew this anyway. But the question is, I guess, what do you do about it? Is the end? I mean, it's overwhelming now. Everybody knows big pharma, big politics, big tech, big everything, any system that's all connected. We know it's the cartel, the American cartel. But again, what do? We couldn't get people to rally. We couldn't get them to protest. You know, it's hard enough to get them to write a letter. You know, another piece of this.
Listen, we can march our way to hell and it won't make a difference. What we've got to do is organize using social media. Now think about this. Let's read the chessboard again, okay? I hate keep bringing it back, but let's do it again. What did the FBI try to do? Control Twitter? Control Facebook? In war, what's the first thing they do? Cut communications, right? Make it so that we couldn't coordinate. We couldn't speak to one another. Because that's the thing. I'm hoping the reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter was to open this up. Listen, I don't know him. I don't know his politics. I know that it's opening up Twitter. I know I'm still on Twitter, and they had canceled me 4 different times previous. So let's see how that goes. But it's the communications. All we got to do, we could be one where it was a whole community through social media. I mean, we're connected with Arizona through social media. And what we do is we organize that way. We organize our voices and our demands. And we go through each state within our own community, build a network of people that moves pieces like going to the Secretary of State's office, demanding that information, taking it to the DEA, taking it to the FBI, never by yourself, because I went that route, because no one else would go with me. And how about this? The cameraman later turned out to be working with the FBI. So it was what it was, but it's a different environment here. We've got to take advantage of this environment. People are putting it together and it's making sense and they're getting braver. Look at the Me Too movement, right? They needed one person to come out, two persons to come out, and then all of a sudden there was a flood. Now think of what could happen here. Think of what could happen here. We could have an avalanche of demands. And I see it could happen.
Sorry to interrupt. I just think
say that again.
Think of the alternative. Inaction.
Well, we don't have a choice.
Suicide. It's suicide. The time is now.
It's enslavement. Yeah. It's enslavement. You were controlled by a digital currency. They will be monitoring your social media. You will be called an enemy of the state. You will be called subversive. The IRS with their agent, listen, they're armed for a reason. They'll take your home. They'll attach your pay. We are so dangerously close to being controlled in every essence of our lives. That's why now is so critical. And we can't wait for an election. We will never solve our problems again through an election. Not unless we fix what's broken here and now.
Yeah, I said that for a long time. I don't think we're going to make 2024 elections.
No way.
Either we're going to have special elections or we're going to have a civil war.
Right.
That's the only thing in the room nobody wants to talk about, but there it is.
I know. You know what we don't? We can win, but our numbers. Listen, what is our advantage? But by the fact that we're 1,000 to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, our advantage is the majority, and don't think that they don't know that too. That's the importance of the media and division. That's the importance where they've taken such a spread. When in our lifetime have we seen such a distance between Republicans and Democrats? When I was young, it wasn't that uncommon for a Republican to vote for a Democrat and vice versa. They used to vote what they thought was for the best candidate. Think about how far away from that. Look at Fox and look at CNN. When did you ever know the truth to be so far apart? Where's the compromise in this? Where's the moderates? Where's the middle ground? Listen, there's things that I believe that might be considered liberal, and there's things that I believe that it's conservative. You know what we are? We're free-thinking Americans. I don't want to put it. I ran for governor as independent from all of their bullshit. You know what I ran for governor as? I was going to bring in a military tribunal. I was going to take over the attorney general's office. Every one of them, get the hell out. I was then going to offer immunities to turn around and say, we're going to be very generous with our immunities. We're going to be extremely forgiving. But you give us everybody. If you're a judge, everybody. Cartel member, everybody. And for everybody who doesn't come forward, we are seeking judges and corrupt politicians guilty of treason. I'm going to consider the heads of cartels as mass murderers and be hung. So now you understand why they tried to murder me.
I would vote for Mike Gill. Just saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, you know, this is me and Mike got the Northeast handled. We're a little tiny. Vermont State has 3 electoral votes. We're about this big, takes 3 hours, 600,000 people, but we have always been on that forefront. And here we are again leading. This is New England. We got New England guys, right? We want some help, but this is for the rest of the nation to do the same thing. Grab this evidence, go request it, demand it. The truth is, we didn't elect any of these people. They have 0 jurisdiction or authority over any one of us. And I've lost all respect. So that's where my fight came from. And I'm not afraid of them anymore. because of guys like Mike. He gives everybody else permission. Thank you, Mike Gill, for what you do.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and as
Wow.
I see it, this is our last chance, folks. I mean, it really is. We got to stand up. This either means something to you or it doesn't. But you know, picture life through an action, and I don't think any one of us is ready to tolerate that. So, thank you,
Think of the life you're going to leave for your children.
Exactly.
What's it going to look like then? And you know what? Maybe your children one day will look back at you and turn around and say, how did you let it happen?
I think it's going to be the opposite. I know when this is all said and done, there's not a person on this planet that's going to say, I didn't try. Nobody's going to be able to do that. And my theory is we're going to watch holographic movies and they're going to write songs and read books about us. So anybody out there that's missing this, man, you are missing out. I can't imagine missing it, to be honest. And who doesn't want to be a part of this? This is an unprecedented, the fall of the corrupt American government. And I like to predict the future by making it. And we are building that new future. So I'm so proud to be a part of that. You know, when
I've seen the series Ozark on Netflix.
Yeah.
And every time I'm looking at this, they've got drug cartels, they've got casinos laundering money, corrupt politicians, the FBI making a deal with the thing. I'm going, Ozarks? I got my stuff's on steroids. It makes look at like Romper Room. I go, you want a series? I'll give you a series.
You couldn't write a screenplay this good. I know that. That's why I said I hope people aren't missing out. And it's as easy as talking to your friends and neighbors and helping each other.
Yeah, I just want to say something on that. You know, like my siblings, they don't watch what I do, but I have, you know, 5 or 6 nieces and nephews. I'm not counting them right off the top of my head, but you know, I even though they might think that they don't know what I'm doing or they think I'm currently crazy, I know down the road, you know, that 5 years from now, maybe hopefully 2, that they're going to look back and go, wow, thanks for doing that. So
imagine being Noah building that boat for 200 years. You think he got a little ridicule?
But when did he build it?
Raining.
When did he build it? He built it before the rain.
Yes.
And that's the point. That's the point, folks. We have to do this before the rain. It is absolutely critical. The time is now. So please stand up.
Please.
Because before you know it, you get the point.
Yeah.
You get the point.
Mike Gill, thank you so much. I know. So, I guess that's good to know. You have a Twitter. Where can people find your Twitter at least?
It's Mike Gill, Twitter. It's State of Corruption on Truth Social. It's Mike Gill on Facebook. And I have a YouTube account, Mike Gill, State of Corruption, Mike Gill, State of Corruption, New Hampshire. I mean, there's about 500 videos. And another gentleman to follow is a journalist that I worked for a while. Not so much now. We've got some issues about witnesses' names, but his name is Brendan Lee O'Connell on YouTube. He helped me up quite a bit by doing videos and posting evidence, and he has a greater perspective of world. He's Australian from as far as when you want to talk about Israel and Mossad, he could connect a lot of dots for you. So we made a pretty good team while we were working together. So he's on YouTube also, Brendan Lee O'Connell.
Thank you for that. Guys, this has been a hell of an interview and an eye-opener. And anything.
Yeah, please, folks, share Mike Gill, share this interview, share the interview he did with Michael Jaco. It was brilliant. Share Kevin Hoyt, share TruthStream. We really can make a difference. We just got to get off our asses and do it.
Yep.
And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to share it and share it often to all the media sources that I'm using.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike, so much. And we hope to have you again on the show again with maybe a even more positive update.
Yeah, hang out after. We're going to say bye to the audience. Don't go anywhere, Mike and Kevin. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Hey, listen, tomorrow I'm on radio from England.
Wait, say that again.
Radio.
I'm on the radio tomorrow from England. That's I'm just giving an example of the reach.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the whole world needs to know about this.
Absolutely.
And they're
They
watching.
know more than we know.
They do. That's true.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.